Welcome to another episode of The Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is Victoria Moran. She is an American author and speaker. She has written several books on spirituality and veganism. Victoria hosts The Main Street Vegan, a radio show and podcast on Unity Online Radio. Stick around. I want to introduce her to you. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Hey, Nancy. I'm terrific. So happy to be with you.
Oh, I'm glad that you are joining us today. And the first thing that I like to ask of my guest is, how did you come to veganism?
Oh my goodness, it's a long story for a short interview. So the really quick version is 5 years old. I came home from school with the 5 food groups, and my very fey nanny said, well, there are some people who never eat any meat. They're called vegetarians. And that just kind of went into me as a little girl in Kansas City a long time ago. And then when I discovered yoga at age 17, that took me all the way to vegetarianism. When I discovered veganism, it made perfect sense, but I couldn't do it, both because I was a practicing binge eater at the time and because it was just so extreme in 1970. And fast forward to 1983, I tried for all those 13 years and I'd be vegan for a while and fall off, but people believed in me. And I think this is so important for all of us who are vegans and we really want somebody that's close to us to come around. Just believe that they're pre-vegans. They're in their pre-vegan state. They're going to make it. And that's exactly what happened for me. Jay and Freya Dinshaw from the American Vegan Society believed in me the most, and a lot of other people did too. And so 1983, November, I had been in recovery for the eating disorder. I looked down at my infant daughter and thought, we got to be vegan, both of us. And that was what did it. And I'm so grateful. And you know, Nancy, I don't even really regret how long it took. I mean, I'm certainly sorry for the animals that died because of that, but to have understanding for other people that not everybody can do this overnight. Hopefully all those fits and starts will have some benefit for somebody else.
Exactly. And first of all, that is a word, pre-vegan, which I started using when I went vegan 8 years ago, telling people that's okay, you're just pre-vegan. And some people who had told me they'll never be vegan within the 8 years have become vegan. So you see, it fits.
It's true.
I'm happy about that. I also know that I think it's in 2016, you were Peta's Sexiest
vegan over 50. I was the female. Dr. Joel Kahn was the male winner that year. So our reign was the year of 2017. And, you know, it's so cool. And I really believe, certainly in my case, that was a Lifetime Achievement Award, not a beauty contest. But I do know for certain that this is just the best way, not only to live your life, but also to grow older, because I'm 71 and I do yoga and I work out and I work hard all day, and I can't even imagine what retirement would look like. And I know that a lot of that has to do with the way I eat. And part of it certainly is the physical, the whole foods and that, of course. But I also think there is a karmic element, because yoga has been a part of my life for 52 years. And that's just how I see the world. And the fact that for the past several decades, at least in this part of my life, I have practiced ahimsa. I've practiced harmlessness and nonviolence, and you get some karmic payback for that.
I think it makes you feel sort of fresh and anew, and you're just not consuming, you know, the flesh of animals who didn't want to die, not being a graveyard for these sentient beings. I think it does change one's outlook, personality, not just health-wise, like you said, but spiritually.
I couldn't agree with you more, Nancy. And when you just think of it, you can consume life or you can consume death, and you can maintain yourself on this earth. And yet, think of the difference. When you're taking in life, you're going to be lively. You're going to wake up in the morning and think, what amazing thing can I do today? What amazing thing might happen today? What miracle might be in store? That's what happens when you eat life. When you eat death, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to work and then maybe go have a few drinks and, I'll do the same thing tomorrow. And not to say that everybody that's not a vegan has that kind of attitude, but it's harder to have the lively attitude when you're consuming death. So why not make it easy for yourself?
Absolutely. Totally believe that. Also, I just want to mention that you and I'm also part of this project, but you have an essay in Joan Kong's upcoming book, Vegan Voices. Can you tell me a little bit about your essay? Not the whole thing, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's yoga, veganism, and me. And because those two things came into my life at about the same time, the yoga came a little bit earlier along with the vegetarianism. And to me, this is a spiritual path and a spiritual process. I mentioned the American Vegan Society. Back in the day, their publication was called Ahimsa, which means dynamic harmlessness. And so to me, veganism came packaged in that tradition. And so to practice both of them is very nourishing to me. And what's cool at this point in history is that that yoga, which has always been vegetarian, is now opening up to being vegan. And it's a little bit difficult because there's a lot of tradition coming from India around dairy, and that butter and milk are honored substances traditionally. And yet it's so beautiful to see people within the yoga community opening up to, we honor the tradition, and now we're moving forward into greater understandings of ahimsa and certainly of taking care of the planet in the shape that it's in today.
And that's exactly how we should look at tradition, because back then it served one purpose, and we hope that we evolve through time and traditions can change.
Exactly.
So that it better fits our ethics and what we're trying to do, which is unify everyone, share the message of love and compassion for all.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting that the same person who would say, well, good heavens, I don't use that software program anymore because it was from, 2 years ago and now it seems ancient, but I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with my life based on something that came from a tradition thousands of years ago. And so we honor the traditions, and yet we live in this present moment. It's a sacred gift.
That is totally true. I mean, traditions, customs, habits, they can all be changed, and still you can still honor the tradition and the culture without having to inflict torment and sorrow on somebody.
And that's the thing. When it really comes down to looking that cow in the eye, or the pig or the chicken or whoever it is that we're talking about, this is a living being. I was just this morning watching the film from Jewish Veg, A Sacred Duty, and the quotation in Genesis that all these beings are living souls. And there's all this theological argument about, do they have souls? I mean, it's right there. It's in Genesis. It's in Hinduism. It's in Buddhism. We're all in this together. And to harm them just because we can, just because we have become addicted to eating their flesh, that's not the way to evolve and move forward and create this beautiful heaven on earth that is fully possible if enough of us wake up.
Exactly. And, because we haven't been getting that message, even though it is in the religions and things like that, because we're not getting that message, I think that Mother Nature is trying to say, okay, you don't want to wake up here. Let me give you a bump on the head. Let's see if I can shake some sense into you. And I think that that's why we're having so many events that are displacing people because we're just not learning. And Mother Nature's kind of saying, wake up already.
Yes, this is such an interesting time because on the one hand, it just looks awful. It can look hopeless depending on which side of the bed you get up in the morning or what news program you listen to. And yet, when you think about the things that are happening, that people are going vegan and people are going kind of sort of vegan till 6. and I'm all for that, because if that's all somebody can do, let them do that. And then the rest kind of opens up. And we look at what's going on commercially with all of the products, the meats, the milks, the cheeses. And some people say, well, I only eat whole foods, I don't eat that. Fine. But for the people who want to eat that, it can change the world. When I love old movies and I love movies about times past, but in all of them, you see horses and you see the terrible burden that was put on millions and millions and millions of these animals for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then you think about, well, maybe the greatest animal rights activist of all time was Henry Ford. How could that be? He didn't intend that, but his invention meant that we do not find ourselves abusing all those horses in those great numbers. And that's exactly what's happening with the Beyond Burgers and the Miyoko's cheese and all of this other stuff. So I celebrate every single thing that is going on out there to make the world kinder, safer, saner. And in this lovely new world with all of these things available, you make your choices. And you purchase what you want to purchase. You live the way you want to live with full appreciation that inventions and opportunities are coming forth so that other people who maybe see things a little differently or maybe who aren't quite so far along can also join this party. And this is a party that can, please God, save the planet.
And each step, no matter how small, is still a step forward. So I'm glad about
Got it.
Now, Victoria, can you tell us about Main Street Vegan?
Ooh, thank you. Main Street Vegan is a book that I wrote that came out in 2012. It did really well. It's still available. And it spawned so many other things. I'm so grateful. So one of the first things that happened after the book Main Street Vegan was the Main Street Vegan radio show and podcast from Unity Online Radio. We just completed our, I think it was 440th episode. So we're live every Wednesday afternoon on Unity Online Radio, and then it's a podcast on all the platforms. So I invite people to take a look at that. We were general vegan stuff for a long time, and now we're kind of niching a little bit. There were 5 vegan podcasts when mine started, and now there are hundreds, which is wonderful, but it calls for a little bit of niching. So I'm calling mine now Main Street Vegan, the spiritual and spirited vegan podcast. And also part of Main Street Vegan is Main Street Vegan Academy, which trains and certifies vegan lifestyle coaches and educators. We are about to have our 33rd class, which will be happening on Zoom starting late in August of 2021. And people can find out more at mainstreetvegan.net. And just because you are so amazing, Nancy, and I'd like to offer a little something to the people listening to this. If anybody is interested in Main Street Vegan Academy, either the program coming up, summer 2021, or the January 2022 class, I want to give you a code for 20% off your tuition, and that is kindness20, kindness with a capital K, 20. And then you can come to Main Street Vegan Academy. We have an incredible faculty, a lot of people you've heard of, J.L. Fields, Dr. Milton Mills, Dr. Robert Ostfeld, Jasmine Singer and Marianne Sullivan of Our Hen House, Chef Fran Costigan, the wonderful fashion designer, Joshua Catcher. So you get everything about what it is to be vegan, and also how to communicate these principles, how to work with individuals and groups, and how to start a business and be a successful solopreneur. So do check us out, mainstreetvegan.net.
That sounds great. I hope that people take advantage of this because this is exciting. You have great names. people who are going to be participating in this, and it just sounds awesome. Victoria,
it's pretty cool.
Victoria, I want to thank you for being on the Vegan Pulse. I surely appreciate you and everything you do and helping other vegans to move forward. So thank you.
Well, bless you. And thank you for having your finger on the Vegan Pulse and all your wonderful work. And I love your essay in Vegan Voices.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Vegan Pulse. Remember to like us on Facebook, check out our website, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.